Helen Brooks had lived in her quiet Vermont home for almost 30 years, and she knew every sound the house made. She knew the creak of the back door when the wind pushed it, the soft hum of the heater waking in the morning, and the rustle of maple leaves brushing against her windows. At 59, she didn't expect surprises. Her days followed a gentle routine: morning tea, tending to her roses, reading by the small window where the sun landed perfectly at 10 a.m. Life was steady, predictable, and calm. She told herself she liked it that way. On a late spring morning, the sun was warm, but the air still held a cool edge. Helen heard a knock. It was firm, quick, and unfamiliar. She paused, confused. She wasn't expecting anyone. She rarely received packages, especially since most of her shopping was done at the local farmer's market or the small grocery store down the hill. The knock came again, lighter this time. Polite but waiting. Helen opened the front door and found herself staring at a young man she had never seen before. He wore a Navy delivery uniform and held a medium-sized package under his arm. A warm smile spread across his face the moment he saw her. His brown hair fell neatly to the side, and his eyes held an easy, unforced kindness. The name tag on his shirt read Adam. "Good morning, ma'am," he said, looking slightly surprised, as if he hadn't expected the person behind the door to look so graceful and calm. "I have a package for you. It says it's a gift." "A gift?" Helen asked, puzzled. "From who?" "That part isn't clear," he replied, turning the box to show her the front label. "No sender name. Just your address." Helen took the package slowly, feeling a strange curiosity rising inside her. She couldn't remember the last time she had received something unexpected. Before she could ask more questions, Adam handed her a small tablet to sign. When she finished, he gave her another one of those warm, respectful smiles that seemed to brighten the space between them. "Well," he said lightly, "if it's a gift, I hope it's something nice." Helen found herself smiling back. "Thank you, Adam." He nodded, then took a few steps back toward the sidewalk. But instead of turning away immediately, he paused as if something had just crossed his mind. "Oh, and I wanted to say," he added, motioning toward the row of flowers behind her porch rail, "your garden is beautiful. I noticed it the last time I drove by this street. It looks like a lot of love went into it." The compliment caught her off guard. Young people often rushed through their days, focused on their phones, their schedules, their thoughts rarely slowing down to notice gardens or porches, or quiet homes sitting under the shade of wide trees. But here he was, mentioning something she cared about deeply, something she had poured her time into since her husband passed away. "Thank you," she said softly. Touched by the sincerity in his voice, he waved politely and walked back toward his truck. Helen closed the door slowly, still holding the mysterious box. She carried it to the kitchen, set it on the wooden table, and carefully opened the top. Inside, wrapped in simple brown paper, was a framed photograph. Helen lifted it out and stared. It was her garden. Someone had taken the picture from the street, capturing the early morning light spreading across her rose bushes, the soft shadows of the maple leaves dancing on the white fence, and the small ceramic bird she always kept near the lilies. The scene looked peaceful, almost magical. It was her garden, but seen in a way she hadn't seen it herself in years. The picture showed beauty she had grown used to, beauty she no longer noticed. But there was no note, no explanation, no clue. She checked the box again, nothing. Just the picture. Just the quiet feeling that someone had been watching her garden with care. She sat down, confused and curious, turning the frame in her hands. She wondered if her daughter had sent it, but that seemed unlikely. Emily barely had time to call weekly due to her busy work life in Seattle. A neighbor, maybe? But who? Most of the neighbors were older, like her. And no one she knew took photographs. Before she could think any further, another knock sounded at the door. Helen straightened, surprised. 2 knocks in one day felt unusual, almost strange. She walked back to the door, wondering if she had forgotten something. When she opened it, she saw Adam again. But this time, his face wasn't cheerful. It wasn't nervous either, just thoughtful, as if he was deciding whether he was doing the right thing by coming back. "I'm sorry to bother you again," he began gently. I just finished my route and realized I should probably explain something about that package. Helen felt a flutter of uncertainty. Explain. Adam took a slow breath, shifting his weight. It wasn't from a stranger, he said quietly. I sent it. Helen's heartbeat jolted. She stared at him, confused, unsure how to respond. The words hung in the air between them, like soft, unexpected mist. You? She said, her voice barely above a whisper. Why would you send me a picture of my own garden? I know it probably seems strange, he replied quickly, lifting his hand slightly, as if wanting to show he meant no harm. I promise I wasn't trying to cross any line or make you uncomfortable. It's just, every time I drove past this house, I noticed how much care went into that garden. It always looked calm, peaceful, and honestly. It became the nicest part of my delivery route. Helen felt her breath catch, not out of fear or alarm, but out of surprise. His voice carried no hidden intention, no disrespect. There was only honesty, he continued. I'm studying photography at the community college part-time. I like taking pictures of things that feel warm or meaningful. And one morning when the light was perfect, I took that photo. It reminded me that some places still feel gentle, even in a busy world. I just thought you might like to have it. That's all. Helen looked at him carefully. His cheeks were slightly flushed and his eyes held a nervous sincerity, as if he hoped she understood he hadn't meant anything inappropriate. He was simply a young man who found beauty in a quiet corner of life that most people overlooked. I didn't want you to think it came from someone strange, he added softly. So I thought it was better to tell you the truth. Helen's hands loosened around the edge of the door. Something inside her, something that had been quiet and untouched for years, shifted. She wasn't used to people noticing her garden. She wasn't used to people noticing her at all. She stepped aside slightly. Would you like to come onto the porch for a moment? She asked. Adam nodded with relief, and the two of them walked to the wooden railing overlooking the flowers. He stood with respectful distance, hands in his pockets, looking out at the roses he had photographed days earlier. You take good photos, Helen said after a moment. The picture captured something special. I'm glad you think so, he replied. It felt wrong to keep it to myself. This place deserves to be seen. They stood quietly together, watching the soft breeze move through the petals. It wasn't romantic, wasn't odd, wasn't anything more than two people sharing a peaceful moment, two people who, by chance, happened to understand something about each other without saying it directly. After a while, Adam said he needed to finish his shift. He thanked her for letting him explain, wished her a good afternoon, and walked back to his truck. Helen watched him leave, the framed photo still in her hand. Her porch felt different now, warmer, as if the world had stepped closer for a brief moment. She looked at her garden again, seeing it with new eyes. Seeing the beauty he had seen, it had been a long time since a stranger had surprised her, a long time since someone had noticed the quiet things she cared about as she stepped back inside her home. Helen felt a small, gentle spark inside her, spark of curiosity, of being seen, of wondering what exactly had begun with that unexpected knock. The photograph glowed softly in her hands, and she realized something simple but powerful. This moment had changed the rhythm of her day, and perhaps, just perhaps, the rhythm of her life. Helen stood on her porch long after Adam drove away, still trying to make sense of the unexpected moment that had unfolded between them. The framed photo sat against her chest, warm from being held so long. She looked at the garden again, her roses, her lilies, the fence she painted every summer, and it felt strange to see it through someone else's eyes. Someone so young. Someone who had taken the time to notice what she thought the world had forgotten. That night, she placed the photo in her living room, not because she wanted to admire the garden, but because the picture held a memory she didn't want to lose, the memory of being seen, of being valued even for something simple. For the first time in years, she felt a little less alone. The next morning, she woke earlier than usual. The house felt different, as if the quiet had thinned out, letting in a bit of hope. She made tea, walked to her porch, and sat among her flowers. She kept wondering if she had said enough to Adam, or if she had sounded confused, or if he thought she was upset. She wasn't upset, just surprised in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. The days passed. She didn't expect to see him again. Some delivery schedules didn't always bring the same driver. But a part of her kept listening for the sound of a truck. The low rumble of tires on gravel. 3 days later, she heard it. The familiar engine noise rolled down the street, stopping in front of her house. Her heart jumped, and she scolded herself quietly. She was a grown woman, nearly 60, old enough to stay calm. But something about the sound made her feel like life had shifted again. She opened the door before he even knocked. Adam stood there, holding a small envelope instead of a package. His smile was shy, polite, careful, like someone stepping gently so they wouldn't break something fragile. "Good morning, Ms. Brooks," he said. "Good morning, Adam," she replied. Trying not to show too much surprise, he lifted the envelope slightly. "I hope this is okay. I brought another photo. I was driving nearby for deliveries, and the light looked beautiful on your front steps yesterday. I thought you might like to see it." Helen blinked. "You took another picture." "I did," he said with a modest shrug. "Only if you want it, of course." "I never want to assume." She opened the envelope. Inside was a smaller photograph, her front steps. The late afternoon sunlight turning the wood a soft gold. Her gardening gloves resting on the rail, her watering can glowing faintly as if touched by warmth. It was simple, but beautiful in a quiet, honest way. "It's lovely," she said softly. Adam nodded, relieved. "I'm glad." She could see he was being very careful, always making sure she didn't feel pressured or uncomfortable. She appreciated that deeply. She invited him onto the porch again, and he stepped up with the same respectful distance as before. "How is school?" she asked. He smiled. "Busy, but good. Photography assignments take a lot of time. Sometimes I drive around trying to find the right light or setting. It gets frustrating, but when the shot works, it feels worth it." She liked listening to him. His voice carried a sincerity that reminded her of her students from years ago, young people filled with hopes, fears, and ambitions they didn't always know how to express. She felt a gentle warmth talking to him. The warmth of someone who found interest in things she loved. They spoke about the garden again, about her late husband's favorite rose bush, about how flowers made her feel grounded. Adam listened carefully, as if her words mattered. When he finally stood to leave, she thanked him again for the photo. Before getting into his truck, he hesitated. "Ms. Brooks, I hope it's not strange for me to say this, but I really enjoyed talking with you." Helen felt a soft flutter, not of romance, but of human connections, something she had missed deeply. "I enjoyed talking with you, too," she said honestly. He smiled, gave a small nod, and drove away. For the next 2 weeks, Adam stopped by 3 more times. Not always with photos, sometimes just to drop off a letter or a small package that truly belonged to her. But each time, he lingered for a moment on the porch, talking about school or his family or the challenges of balancing work and study. And each time, Helen found herself opening up a little more. She had never been the type to talk openly about herself, especially to strangers. But something about Adam felt safe. He never crossed personal boundaries, never treated her like anything other than someone he respected. He listened with genuine interest, and when he spoke, it was with kindness. One afternoon, after he delivered a gardening tool she had ordered, they ended up talking longer than usual. The sun was setting, painting the yard in warm shades of orange and pink. The moment felt peaceful, almost suspended in time. "Can I ask you something?" Adam said suddenly. "Of course," she replied. "Were you lonely before?" "Before I started coming by?" Helen didn't expect the question. She looked at him, surprised by how gently he asked it. She thought about it for a moment. "Yes," she said simply. "I think I was." He nodded slowly. "I get that. My mom lives alone too. I worry about her sometimes. People deserve someone to talk to." Helen felt something tighten gently in her chest. "Thank you for noticing," she said. Adam lowered his gaze, his voice soft. "I didn't want you to think I came here just to deliver things. I just like being here. It feels different from everywhere else." She didn't know what to say at first. She sensed he wasn't trying to push any kind of relationship, just expressing something honest. A connection, not an intention. "I'm glad my home feels welcoming," she replied. He gave a small smile. "It does. But life has a way of shifting just when things feel steady." One morning, Helen found a letter in her mailbox. It was from the delivery company informing her that they were moving drivers to new routes due to scheduling changes. Adam's name was listed under a different neighborhood. Her stomach dropped. She read the letter twice, hoping she misunderstood. But it was clear Adam would no longer deliver to her street. For a moment, she sat on her porch step, holding the paper tightly. She knew their connection was simple, not romantic, not confusing, just human. But even simple connections can leave an ache when they fade. That same afternoon, she heard the delivery truck again. She stood quickly, hoping she was wrong. Hoping he would still be the one stepping out. He was. But this time he looked more serious, almost sad. He walked up to her with slow steps, holding a small cardboard box. "I guess you got the letter too," he said quietly. Helen nodded. "I didn't know until yesterday," he continued. "I'm really sorry. I wanted to come by today to say goodbye properly." "I'm glad you did," she replied. He handed her the box. "This is the last delivery on my route here." She accepted it with a heavy heart. "I'll miss our talks." "I will too," he said. "More than you know." He took a breath, as if trying to choose his next words carefully. I hope I didn't make your life complicated. I never wanted that." "You didn't," she said firmly. "You made my days brighter." He smiled, sad but grateful. "Good. That's all I ever wanted." There was a long pause. Not uncomfortable, just filled with things neither of them knew how to say before I go. He said, reaching into his pocket, "I have one last photo for you." He handed it to her. It was a picture of her porch at sunrise, the soft light touching the flowers, the shadows long and delicate, the air looking crisp and full of hope. "It's my favorite one," he admitted. Helen held it gently. "It's beautiful. I want you to remember. Your home has warmth," he said, "and you do too." Her eyes softened. "Thank you, Adam. Truly." T nodded slowly. "Take care, Miss Brooks. You too." He walked to his truck, turning back once to wave. She lifted her hand in return, her heart full and aching at the same time. Then he drove away, the sound fading down the street until it disappeared completely. Helen stood on her porch for a long time after, holding the last photo he had given her. She didn't cry. She didn't break. She simply felt grateful, felt touched, felt alive in a way she hadn't felt for years. Life had handed her an unexpected connection, brief but meaningful. It reminded her that even at 59, the world could still surprise her. It reminded her that kindness can come from anyone at any age. And it reminded her that being seen, truly seen, was still possible. She looked at the garden, the roses swaying gently in the afternoon breeze, and she whispered to herself, "Thank you, not to Adam alone, but to life, for bringing color back into her days." And she knew without any doubt that she would never forget the young delivery man who noticed the quiet beauty of her world and reminded her she still mattered.